Welcome back to Music Kingdom. Due to popular demand in this video, we will be listening to, giving a music theory breakdown for, and reviewing yet another song by the Bee Gees, which I feel accurately represents the capabilities of their artistry. And the song I chose is called Odessa. Hang tight. Hey music lovers, my name is Francis. If you'd like to support the work I put into these videos, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support the channel even further, you'll find Music Kingdom's Patreon and other affiliate links in the description below. Alright, now before we give the song a listen, first some brief context about Odessa, the song that I chose for this video. Now the reason I chose this song is because so many people, especially newer, younger generations, and to no fault of their own, associate the Bee Gees with songs like Stayin' Alive. So it's like if I'm having a conversation and I say, yeah, I'm really into the Bee Gees, I'm always bound to hear some kind of person chime in saying, I'm staying alive! Which, yes, is the Bee Gees, and it's a great song, don't get me wrong, but I've always felt that it doesn't really portray how great they truly were. I mean, if you really look at it, the disco era of their music from the late 70s is really just a blip in the overall 5 decades of work that they've created. Arguably 6 decades if you count the 50s, where they started as adolescents. So with that said, over 5 or 6 decades, there are a number of songs I would show someone who perhaps does not know that much about the Bee Gees, and Odessa is one of them. I'm not saying it's perhaps the best one to show them, but it does an excellent job of demonstrating their depth and their capabilities as artists. So the song Odessa, technically Odessa City on the Black Sea in parentheses, but that's a mouthful, so I'm just gonna keep calling it Odessa, is a song from the album titled Odessa, released in 1969, and interestingly enough, it is their 6th studio album by 1969. They hadn't even touched the 70s yet with albums like Mr. Natural, Main Course, or Spirits Having Flown, for example. So for me, I find that impressive, and it is a testament to not only their creativity, but their achievement in such a short amount of time as artists. Now the album Odessa is what many people would describe as a concept album, largely based around the fictitious subject of a lost ship from 1899. Very original, very inspired. I am foreshadowing the eventual grade I will give it. Now some fun facts and or trivia about the album Odessa. It was originally going to be called an American opera, which is so badass, but then it also had the potential name of Masterpiece. Peace being spelled P-E-A-C-E, not P-I-E-C-E, which also is very badass. But ultimately they arrived at the title Odessa, which I don't think any of us would disagree with. Now the album Odessa is a smidge infamous, and the reason is around this time in the lifespan, if you will, of the Bee Gees, the brothers Barry, Morris, and Robin were entering some kind of turmoil that was not solely because of this album. They had their own reasons and dysfunction and disagreements at that time. Being younger men, of course, egos and money gets in the way. But this album was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. They couldn't really agree on direction. They would argue about which single would be debuted and who got to shine more in terms of what gets on the radio, things like that, which would lead to an eventual and temporary breakup of the band, which lasted just a little while before they reunited by the early 70s and went on from there. Now back to the song Odessa, it was originally inspired by, I believe, a travel brochure that Robin Gibb saw. The lyrics themselves tell the fictitious story of a survivor of a ship called the Veronica in 1899 floating on an iceberg in the Baltic Sea. Doesn't get much more creative than that. Lastly, on the subject of Odessa, the song, and the album Odessa, I would encourage you, if you're not familiar and you're wanting to learn more about the Bee Gees, to give that entire album a listen. I am choosing Odessa because, in my opinion, it is not only my favorite song of the album, it is perhaps one of the best, along with Seven Seas Symphony, which mind-blowing. But otherwise, it's time to give the song a listen, and be sure to stick around after the song for a music theory breakdown from our expert, and then we're going to grade the song and review it. It's already so well put together. Acoustic and cello. gorgeous. It's such an atmosphere, an aesthetic. Imagine showing this to someone, they're like, this is the Bee Gees?
Cherub, I lost the ship in the Baltic Sea. I'm on an iceberg running free.
I love Robin's voice.
One passing ship gave word that you had moved out of your old flat. You love the vicar more than words can say.
What a vibrato, too.
Tell him to pray that I won't melt away, and I'll see your face again.
Strings. Stunning. So original. And I should have mentioned, I also chose this because it's a Robin song. No shade to Barry or Morris, but Robin songs are amazing.
You know the neighbors that live next door.
I love the addition of strings.
You love that vicar more than words can say.
Amazing.
Ask him to pray that I won't melt away, and I see your face again.
Hello. Amazing. What the hell? Imagine composing this. Imagine having the talent to create something like this. That's what blows me away every time. What a trip. You almost wish you were on drugs for this. And knowing them, they probably were on drugs.
14th of February 1899.
outro.
The British ship Veronica was lost without a sign.
Wow. Initial thoughts. I can see why Robin would want that to be the lead single of the album, and I can also see how that's not exactly single material or radio material, because it is essentially an abstract, near 8-minute masterpiece of art, as opposed to like a song that's just a simple verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, finish, 3 minutes and 40 seconds, whatever. As far as the song itself, to try to talk about what's great about it, you know, it's not so easy. It's just this emotion you feel, but if we're going technical here, I mean, the use of cello, the use of strings, the use of guitar, the very original and inspired lyrics for starters, but also the composition itself is so artistic and so creative, in my opinion. Robin's voice, I mean, I love Barry Gibb, I love his voice, I love his songs, especially when he's leading, but Robin has a vibrato that belongs in the opera. I mean, it's a miracle that he graced the ears of mainstream music listeners and not just live on stage opera listeners. I love the storytelling, I love how fresh it is, and in my opinion, I do feel it's aged well. Yes, you can hear that it's dated, of course, but because it wasn't necessarily trying to sound like the times, in my opinion at least, and because it was so abstract and unique, all these years later, it sounds gorgeous, and it's not necessarily something you'd cringe at, say, like something super synth-heavy from the 80s. But before I give my thoughts even further and break the song into different categories, giving it a grade, let's first go to the Experts Corner for a music theory breakdown.
Welcome to the Experts Corner. This is Odessa, City on the Black Sea by the Bee Gees. This song is in the time signature of 4/4, and it's in the key of either A minor or C major. There's a concept in music theory called the relative major and the relative minor. A minor is the relative minor of C major. For this song, I'm going to go ahead and say it's in the key of A minor because that's what we would call home for most of the song. That's A minor. Now, since this is a pretty long song, I'm not going to go through every chord progression throughout the whole song, but I'll give you a couple. The composition of this song is pretty simple, but still beautifully done. Near the beginning and at the end again, it's mainly just A minor to E major. Kind of repeats that a few times. Then it goes to C major, to G major, to A minor, to E major. Later on in the song, it's a bit more upbeat, does this thing where it's like C major, F major, D minor, G major, and then it just kind of plays around on those same chords, just in different orders. Simple, but good and well thought out. I'm not even going to complain. Overall, I think this is a beautiful song. It kind of feels like an abstract work of art with super unique lyrics that tell an interesting story. Robin Gibb's vocals are, of course, top-notch. The song has beautiful instrumentation, arrangement, and composition. The score it's getting from me today is 7.5, which I know sounds kind of low for a Bee Gees song when they're all so good. I have a few reasons for this one. First one being, to me, in my personal opinion, it feels kind of formless. It feels like a bit of a shapeless blob. A beautiful one at that, but I want it to have a bit more of a shape. It feels a little unfinished to me. Two, on that same note, even the tempo is kind of all over the place. You can tell they didn't record it to like a click track or a metronome or something to kind of keep them on track. It just kind of ebbs and flows a bit in a way that sounds rough. Three, I think sometimes the reverb was a little excessive and it made it sound muddy, hard to hear what's going on. And lastly, I'm giving it this score because there are several other Bee Gees songs that I know I would rate higher. So if I were to give this one anything higher than a 7.5, it wouldn't give those songs much room above it. Regardless, 7.5 is a great score, and I do think it's a beautiful song. Back to you, Francis.
A very special thank you to our musical expert for providing the breakdown of the song Odessa and giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen his takes yet. I kind of get those a little after the fact when I record. However, he did give me his thoughts, and this is one we don't see eye to eye on, which is good because that keeps it interesting, and he's the expert, so I respect that. However, that being said, it is time for my takes. I'm gonna break the song down into different categories, factor in his expert score, average them out, and arrive at a final score. So let's get to it. Starting out with composition, I'm inclined to give the song a 9 out of 10, which is exceptionally rare on this channel. Reason being, I find it to be a fabulous, exquisite, tasteful, thought out, creative composition. Whether you're talking about the intro, the lead up after the intro, how the verses are structured, how it shifts completely when the chorus hits, and then you repeat that, and then the outro with the cello and the musical breakdown that's going on there as it kind of slows and also crescendos, and then the outro as well with their whole May till February. Anyways, I think it is one of the best compositions I have ever heard, and in my opinion, if someone's watching an older video and I'm giving a composition to a song like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and you're wondering what a really good one is, this is what a really good one is to me. Again, this is entirely subjective, but in my opinion, well deserving of a 9 out of 10. Up next is production, which I am also giving a rare 9 out of 10. Now, something to keep in mind, production in 1969 was in its absolute infancy. It is something that the Beatles really popularized with how they made their songs sound, and production would continue to evolve in the 70s and then really take off to new heights in the 80s with technology. And then production as we currently know it today is so sophisticated, so it can be kind of hard to gauge where this lands in production, but another word I might use for it would be arrangement. I think that's kind of a close enough definition for 1969. So its production and or arrangement, in my opinion, is a 9 out of 10. Reason being, it is exceptional usage of the strings, the guitar, the cello, the atmosphere of the waves crashing, the reverb on the vocals, which, if I recall, the expert told me that he thought it was a bit messy, a bit muddy. I totally see that too. Like, I can see where he's coming from, but for me, this is subjective. I think it is a near flawless production arrangement that really gave the song its feel, that really gave the song its atmosphere and aesthetic. So yes, the way it's harmonized, the way it's put together, the way it's produced, in my opinion, is just shy of a perfect 10 out of 10. Moving right along, we have lyrics, which I'm also giving a 9 out of 10. And I swear to God, I love the Bee Gees. That right there is a Bee Gees painting. I acknowledge my love and bias for the Bee Gees, and I seriously am doing my best to not let that interfere with my scoring. I do try to be as subjectively objective or objectively subjective as possible. The lyrics to this song, in my opinion, are excellent. They are very original, they're very inspired, it's fresh, it's innovative, it's creative. And the writing of it, while it isn't necessarily the most poetic thing in the world, which would probably be a 10, which it's damn close to, it is still gorgeously written, it is perfectly rhymed, it's telling a story very effectively, it does not get redundant, and you almost want to listen a few more times and read along like you're part of a fairy tale or you're part of a storybook or something of that nature, which is such a lost art, in my opinion, regarding today's music, today's lyrics, especially as the music industry has changed and evolved or devolved and become much more commercial and mainstream and kind of business oriented, where it's all about just something that's relatable and easy and it rhymes, right? So I'm not saying all music today sucks, of course not, no, but lyrics like these, I mean, you almost have to go back to 1969 to find lyrics like these. They absolutely floor me. It's about a freaking ship, a fictitious ship from 1899 on an iceberg in the Baltic. Like, it's just so absurd yet amazing, and you fall in love with the story. I mean, the way it's delivered as well, which I'll get to with vocals, but in my opinion, these are exquisite lyrics, tasteful, artistic, whatever adjectives you want to use. So yeah, am I biased? Probably, but I swear to God, I'm trying my best not to be. I think these lyrics are deserving of a 9. Moving on to vocals, I'm giving them a 9 out of 10. It's Robin Gibb. He's one of the greatest vocalists in the history of the music industry. As mentioned, he could absolutely be in an opera with the chops that he has, with the vibrato and range that he has. And this song beautifully showcases his vocals. I really am trying to be objective here. I'm not trying to be too biased, but I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest vocal performances by one of the greatest vocalists ever. it's gonna be a 9 out of 10. I mean, the reason it's not a 10 in my opinion is because there might be some versatility that I'd like to hear more, a bit more perhaps falsetto of this or vocal runs of that or belting of this, that if I'm splitting hairs would bump it to a 9.5 or a 10. But I mean, my goodness, the soft silkiness of his voice in the verses and then the loud, almost painful emotion of his vibrato when he's belting the word Odessa, and then in the final chorus, he's already belting it with the vibrato, and then he decides to just turn it up and go to a higher note in the same breath. I mean, it's little things like that that absolutely floor me, and not to be redundant, but really, this to me is a 9 out of 10. Again. Now lastly, arriving at our final category of originality and inspiration, I am giving this the highest grade I've ever given a video on this channel, which is still relatively young. I am giving it a 9.5 out of 10, which I almost feel guilty or like sacrilegious doing because I've never uttered those words in a video. So far on this channel, I have I think this is gonna be the 20th video, and of those 20, maybe 10 to 15 are actual gradings of songs. And yeah, none of them have had a 9.5 in any category because none of them have been as original or inspired or creative or fresh or innovative as this. I mean, it doesn't get much more original or inspired than telling the tale of a lost ship at sea in the 1800s named the Veronica of February 14th with lyrics that sound like a love letter, and yet they are beautifully descriptive with instruments like the cello, with the great usage of Robin's falsetto. And they would use Robin's falsetto in other songs that were very poppy or R&B or soul or disco-y, and they sounded excellent. But I would almost argue that this genre, if you will, whatever flavor of song that this song is the perfect example of how to use a voice like Robin's. He could do many different types of songs as mentioned, but a song like this is... Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. I find this song to be exquisitely original and inspired, the very definition of originality and inspiration in music. Honestly, that missing 0.5 that would make originality and inspiration a 10 is probably only reserved for like a film score for like Spirited Away or something of that nature, or maybe some kind of historical context that maybe on a personal level would bump it up to just absolute blissful perfection, but 9.5 is as close as it gets. And ultimately what makes the Bee Gees so freaking good. I mean, in my opinion, they are in the top echelon of bands/artists ever. And I think more people would agree if more people explored their stuff. Add it all up, throw in the expert score and average it out. Odessa, City on the Black Sea from the 1969 album Odessa by the Bee Gees gets a very strong 8.8 out of 10. I am grateful for our expert for kind of bringing this back down to earth. As mentioned, I did try to be as objective as possible, and they were my honest thoughts. There were other Bee Gees songs that I could easily give a 5 or a 6. This is simply not one of them, but even still, it's good to have a different perspective. It's good to have a very educated take on his part. He's got a degree in this shit. So I respect it, I like it, it keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, keeps it from only me praising it and giving it what would probably end up averaging out to above a 9 out of 10. So respect to that, 7.5 is very fair. And arriving at an 8.8 out of 10 is certainly one of the highest scores, maybe the highest score of any song that this channel has ever reviewed. As mentioned, out of the 20 videos, there really are only 10 to 15 so far that are actually grading songs, so that might change, but for now, an absolute masterpiece, the highest score yet. And to take this back to the Bee Gees as a group, let it be known, they are capable of so much, they were capable of so much, and there are so many other songs, not just Odessa, that can give you a very accurate idea of how much more they were than just Staying Alive, or How Deep Is Your Love, or the song Night Fever from Saturday Night Fever, so on and so forth, More Than a Woman. So when I say that this is the real Bee Gees, again, I'm not saying that Staying Alive, for example, is not the real Bee Gees. It is the real Bee Gees. They're both the real Bee Gees, but what I'm really getting at is, as mentioned, over 5 or 6 decades of albums. The Saturday Night Fever era was just such a small blip, and of course people of the past probably know that this version of the Bee Gees does exist, but people born in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s, and eventually the 2020s are gonna hear about the Bee Gees, but they're gonna hear about them from the disco era thing. So in my opinion, I do feel it's important to shed some light. Whether you're into the song or not, maybe you thought the song was a 3 out of 10, but at least exposing people to other works by the Bee Gees. Chances are a majority of people watching this might have found it because they grew up on the Bee Gees. They're an older demographic, and welcome to the channel. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. But I'm also hoping that people my age, younger, older, different generations that were not just around for the Bee Gees can see this and hopefully take something from it. As usual, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you were around for the Bee Gees, let me know your opinions, or especially if you're perhaps newer to the Bee Gees, I would love to hear what you have to say. I think that'd be really cool. In addition to whether or not you agree with me or disagree with me, what you think of the song, and ultimately what this channel should review next. As mentioned, if you'd like to support myself and the work I put into these videos, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, you'll find Music Kingdom's Patreon and other affiliate links in the description below. This has been another edition of Music Kingdom. Thank you so much for listening with me, and I'll look forward to jamming with you in the next one.